Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be the weekly review of the Power Profit Scan newsletter, which is the email newsletter portion of the Inner Circle subscription. The other part of the subscription is the live trading room, but there is also this portion where I send it out every weekend. And as you'll see, just go over several setups that I find through scans. Before I go any further, quick disclosures up front. First, am I trying to imply that every single alert that I send out is a winner and is a great moneymaker? Absolutely not. In fact, in this video, you're about to see that, yeah, losses happen, and this is why it kind of catapults into a great real-life learning example on why keeping losses controlled, why keeping losses small and disciplined really does matter, because while losses do happen, as you're going to see, winners also happen. So when those winners do happen, you want to be in a position where you haven't lost and let any sort of loss spin out of control. So that's where, you know, there's little nuances in trading that because there's no point in hiding the fact that losses do happen, but let's just turn that into a learning example on why you know, you need to keep things disciplined. Second disclaimer to make is we are going a bit back into the history of things. We're going to 10-8-18. Why so far behind? Well, a couple reasons. First, it's just simply giving the chart plenty of time to play out, so that way we can see what actually happened since the time, you know, if we just did it a week later or so. Sometimes, you know, patience is required for these plays and alerts and setups, whatever you want to call them, to actually unfold. But, you know, this gives us plenty of time. And second, it's just simply a matter of being fair. The last thing I would want to do is for somebody to pay and then all of a sudden, a few moments later, see something for free. And it's like, well, I just paid for that, and now it's out in the public. So this also makes sure that the paying members have plenty of opportunity, and, you know, I'm sure that's more than understandable. So with that being said, let's get to it. Now, to set up some context here in terms of why what I'm about to talk about is actually very, very important, and in a weird and twisted type of way, because, yeah, I'll be the first to admit I love to talk about winners on these videos because, hey, you know, that's much more enjoyable to talk about. But in a weird way, like I said, in a twisted way, these losses that we're about to show really go to show a much bigger principle, a much bigger fact that I think sometimes people overlook or don't think matters, or I'll do that later, where it actually really does matter in a big way, especially when weeks like this occur. What do I mean by weeks like this? Well, remember the time frame here we're talking about is October, and if you're watching this, you know, on YouTube several months from now, or who knows, maybe a year from now, this portion of the market got really, really nasty. You know, the overall markets just got absolutely hammered, and it was a nasty period out there. So as you're going to see, and I'm just taking a couple examples, but people that were going long, people that were trying to buy and make money from prices going up, known as going long, it was a very rough week. And this is just one example from the newsletter, you know, that's going to kind of show that. But there's a but coming, so just stick around for the but, because that's what kind of you know, proves and illustrates the idea of why there's a certain aspect of the market that is very important. So right here, though, did alert DK with, as you can see up here, you know, just implying, is this some sort of bottom? Because, I mean, the price started to go sideways, so I threw out the, you know, the logical conclusion that, hey, you know, maybe this is some sort of bottom forming, so let's see how this played out. So here is what the chart looked like over the weekend. I believe I said it already, but I send out the newsletter usually on Saturdays, so it comes out on the weekend. That way, you know, everybody's got, you know, plenty of time to look over things and set up trade plans and so on and so forth. So let's just kind of get started. And Monday, you can see the price actually gapped down. So it closed up there and gapped right there. So I'm not saying necessarily people got in, but I'm going to assume people got in, even if they saw the gap down, perhaps thought, all right, well, you know, it's down by support. So I'm just going to assume people got in, but I would also understand if they didn't get in, because if you're thinking of going long and buying, all of a sudden you see something gap down, I could understand maybe some hesitation, but I also understand that everybody's different. We all have different risk tolerance levels. But for the sake of this, and kind of for the sake of the example here from the general learning example, I'm going to assume that people did get in, and you can see that from that point forward, I mean, it just went down. So again, my point here is this is why losses are important in the sense of keeping losses controlled, keeping losses managed. I realize these are just general sound bites. Well, what do you mean? How do you keep losses controlled? How do you? Well, that's the importance of knowledge. That's the important of investing into yourself and learning how to actually trade, because I'm well aware that all I'm doing is tossing out general sound bites like keep losses controlled. But there is an actual strategy. There is an actual way to do all this. And, that's not what, it's more in-depth than what is going to be accomplished on a, 20, 25, heck, hour video. But, there's definitely ways out there to definitely specify what keeping losses controlled, having disciplined losses means. And here's a hint. It's more than just throwing in a stop loss, because you got to know where to put the stop loss. You got to know what's a logical area. You got to know, is the stop loss even worth putting in the first place? So there's lots of things to it. But point here being, this was one. And like I said, the entire market was getting absolutely hammered during the week. So you can see that this stock was no different. Down it went. But the importance of keeping losses small. The next one here was ALT, and I totally just I've never had this category before, but I think this did a good job of illustrating things here. But just simply pointed out the fact that this thing has in the past made crazy moves from $4.27 up to $36. No, that's not a typo. So you have the crazy past history. All of a sudden you have another crazy candle again where it moved like $2 in the course of a day. And it had, the crazy volume compared to, past times. So you throw all these together and, is more crazy coming? So this was definitely one that I had an eye on. So let's see how this played out. Again, here was what the chart looked like over the weekend. And you can see on that Monday, it just flat out gapped down. Although, given the premise of the category, hey, is more crazy coming? Who knows? Maybe the crazy was going to be a gap down, and then all of a sudden it comes back to life again and, kind of skyrockets back. Even if it skyrockets back up only halfway from a percentage standpoint, that's still actually a decent move. So that's why I can understand if people just never got in the first place. So for some, this could have been a quote-unquote no play, meaning they just never took any action. But I could also see, because we are all different, that maybe some people, thought that maybe some sort of crazy was going to happen. But yeah, as you see here, there was no crazy. All it did was drift back down. So that was definitely a one-day type wonder. And again, that would have been another losing trade, had you gotten in with that expectation of some sort of crazy, which would have been logical, as I pointed out, but it just simply didn't work out. And, the overall markets, given was just dragging everything down. So it makes sense why. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. Not necessarily fun to talk about losses, but now this is where I want to move into, and I will fully admit that some of the other ones on the email, more losses or no plays and kind of some gray area. Well, would you have gotten in or wouldn't you? Because there were gap downs across the market. But regardless, point here being is I fully admit that, yeah, this was a rough week for anybody, any newsletter that's just talking about going long and buying, because the week as a whole just got absolutely hammered. However, and here brings the learning lesson, shorting. What does shorting mean real quick in case you're new? Shorting means you make money when prices go down. That may sound like black magic. That may sound a little goofy, but it's totally true. It's totally possible. It exists in the market. And the learning lesson, maybe you kind of know where I'm going with this, is bad weeks do occur in the market. And when that occurs, there's still actually opportunity to make money, but that's where shorting comes into play. I do offer a course on it. Would I love for you to buy the course? Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. But my goal here is not to get you to buy the course. Again, I'd love if you did, sure, but just be aware of shorting. And if you are already aware of it, and I'll learn that another time. Yeah, I'll learn that. No, this is exactly why you need to learn it and why it's such a critical component to having 100% flexibility as a trader. So as part of the newsletter, I do send out alerts for potential short setups. Now, they're not charts, but this illustrates the knowledge of power. Anybody that's taken the course, they don't need to have something chart. They have been taught what to look at, what to look for on the chart themselves. So that's why I just simply throw out some ticker symbols, because given that they're students, they know what to do. And again, give a man a fish, what was it saying? They eat for a day, teach a man to fish, they eat for a lifetime. So these people have been taught how to fish in regards to shorting, so that's why they're just given a ticker symbol. But let's look at a couple of these that were given out. Remember, we've talked about the losers from people trying to buy and make money from prices going up, but let's see about making money when prices go down. So here we are looking at STX. This is what the chart looked like when I alerted it over the weekend. And again, I realize if you're new, this sounds kind of bad, but actually seeing prices fall, seeing these candles go lower and lower is a good thing from a shorting perspective. So I'll just kind of quickly go through this, but like I said, if you took my course, then you would definitely know how to, have played one of these types of moves. And you can see that ultimately that thing dropped $9 per share. Now, am I saying anybody got $9 per share? I'm not saying anybody played it perfectly. I'm just saying that was the window that they could have worked with from the short side to, make quite a bit of gains. So when you stop and think about it, from here all the way down to there, this was a big old window that could have wiped away some of those losses, assuming they were controlled, assuming they were disciplined from the long side. So flexibility. Yeah, maybe you're trying to make money on some stocks that went up. But if you're disciplined about it and kept the losses controlled and small, well, hey, here's a stock that went down quite a bit and would have wiped away those losses and then put more green into your pocket. Another one from the list, AKCA. So same premise here. We want to see prices go down. And that is exactly what happened. Again, if you know how to do shorting and know how to read charts and all that good stuff, more than plenty of several ways you could have, gotten into this and taken advantage of the $10 per share drop. Again, $10 per share, that's a lot, especially for a stock that's, in the $30 range. And again, not saying anybody played it perfectly, but lots and lots of wiggle room, lots and lots of, territory to lock in a nice little, I shouldn't say winner, a nice winner, and which would have wiped away those stocks that did not go up. So remember, just because markets are going down doesn't mean that there's nothing you can do. It doesn't mean that you're just going to flat out lose money, because you need to have 100% flexibility as a trader. And again, what is 100% flexibility as a trader? Well, yeah, everybody knows about this method, making money when prices go up. But that's only 50% flexibility, because why? Well, you can only make money 50% of the time. But if you can also make money when prices go down, what is that giving you? That is literally increasing your flexibility by 100%, because 50 and you double it, which is a 100% move. So 100% increase in flexibility you can accomplish by learning how to short. Again, I'd love for you to buy my course, but even if you don't, shorting is something that not only needs to be learned, but started to implement so that you can have full flexibility as a trader. If you are interested in joining the group and surrounding yourself with other like-minded traders, people that, yes, do short, do go long, do whatever the chart is essentially telling you to do, then that is the idea here behind the community. Just talked about the Power Profit scans, but like I said at the very beginning, also get the live trading chat room, and there's lots of other little dynamics here going on that you can read about. Also, there is an app, so it's not like you have to stay chained to your computer or anything like that. You can stay in touch no matter where you are, and that doesn't have any additional cost or anything. Speaking of, prices, the price is, are you ready? $99 per year. Not per week, not per quarter, not per month, per year. If you were to pull out your calculator and break that down per month, that would break down to $8.25. I don't really think that's that amount. If you were to break out your calculator and continue to crunch the numbers and do it per week, it's $1.90 per week. So as far as pricing is concerned, I'm 100% confident in saying it is more than fair. And as I say every week, and will continue to say, over the time span of 12 months, I'm quite confident you can get at least $99 worth of value. So let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Hopefully you learned something from this. From my perspective, not the funnest video to make, because it's not like there was any winners from the long side, but from the short side, meaning when prices go down, it made a great real life example of just the importance of making sure you have 100% flexibility as a trader.